Stories are a great medium for us to indulge in. They can open up a gateway of immersion into worlds limited only by the imagination of its teller. And in manga form, anyone can take whatever concoction they can imagine, and if they can see it, they can draw it and make it into a form of reality. Within these stories lie certain tropes that reoccur throughout the different works of these different authors. One of my absolute favorite tropes is the one where a character who is presented to be good, one who probably is actually good, is still so morally ambiguous that you don't quite know where their true allegiance lies. I have a term for this based off Shinobu Otaka's Magi: The Labyrinth of Magic series. I call this trope halfway fallen, after one of the greatest manga characters of all time, the first class singularity, Sinbad of the Seven Seas. Bleach has such a character, a paradoxical character who fits the mold for what I call halfway fallen. His name is Kisuke Urahara, and he is Bleach's forever paradox. Kisuke Urahara is f***ing great. He's a man of great intellect, a man of great foresight, and yet one that you'll never truly be able to understand. When we meet him during the first arc of Bleach, he's a treasure trove of knowledgeable riches, always knowing more about everything, certainly more than we expected him to know. He's presented to be a shady business owner who knows about the spiritual world and serves as some sort of underground dealer for Rukia to get supplies. He's very suspiciously aware of everything, and the dark shadows cast over his eyes by his weird hat isn't the only thing about him that is veiled in mystery. And the more we see him do in the story of Bleach, the more questions we have about who he really is and where his allegiance truly lies. One of the first things Kubo establishes about Kisuke's character, and something that becomes important and will continue to be important, is his understanding of how the world of Bleach works. Kisuke knows things. He knows a lot, actually. And from the beginning, Kubo uses him to teach us about mod souls, but not just any mod souls. He understands the true dark nature of the Soul Society and its decisions. He knew about the Quincy War from 1,000 years ago, but not just the general information available to the spiritual public. No, he knows more. Kubo establishes from a very early stage that the world of Bleach is fractured and broken in many ways, but more importantly, he establishes that Kisuke Urahara knows, to a greater deal than others around him, Kisuke knows how truly dark this world is, and his immense understanding of this world will come into play, crafting the moral quandary surrounding his character. We see him stop Rukia from preventing Ichigo from fighting against the Menos that attacked Karakura Town. We see him allow Ichigo to fight against Renji and Byakuya just to prove a point, and he facilitates the growth of Ichigo as a fighter in order to, and let's be real here, have Ichigo clean up the mess that he helped create. A lot of these things are morally ambiguous, and Kisuke is not beyond making these tough decisions, as long as it's for a goal he believes to be necessary. When Aizen, his intellectual rival, reveals the truth behind Kisuke's actions, his morals are called into question. Kisuke Urahara is one of the smartest people in all of manga, and in his intelligence, he became burdened with too much knowledge. He understood things all too well, and he began to ask more questions. He would then begin to seek answers to these questions, and this led him into the creation of one of the most important objects in Bleach, the Hogyoku. Pushed on by a desire to understand what lay beyond the barriers between Soul Reaper and Hollow, he created an object that could break down the proverbial wall between these two warring species, and in so doing, opened a Pandora's box of possibilities, both good and evil. And in trying to destroy the evil he created, he stored his Hogyoku inside Ruki's Gigai and intended to rob her of her spiritual energy until she became fully human, a decision he did not ask her opinion on. Pretending to be helping her in her time of need, Kisuke only saw an opportunity to correct his mistake. Now, did he apologize afterwards? Sure he did. Only issue is, it doesn't change the fact that he made that choice. He was willing to sacrifice Ruki's livelihood to right a wrong he committed. And this moral ambiguity forms the basis for Aizen's conflict with Kisuke. More so than anyone else in Bleach, Aizen sees Kisuke as an intellectual kindred spirit. Kisuke is not like the others. Kisuke actually understands. he succeeded where Aizen failed. He, just like Aizen, saw through the lies of the Soul Society and knew that the godhead they were taught to revere was nothing more than a puppet, reduced to becoming a figurehead with no will of its own. Kisuke understood that. Aizen understood that. But where Aizen sought to fix the problem he found, Kisuke remained complicit. Aizen's final moment highlighted the rage that he felt, demanding an answer from Kisuke, saying, "Why is it that with your great intellect you refuse to take action? Why do you continue to subject yourself to that thing?" And Kisuke's response to Aizen is, "The Soul King is a linchpin to everything. Without it, everything would simply crumble away. That, my friend, is how the world works." And therein lies the moral quandary of Kisuke Urahara. Bleach is a story filled with villains who find out the truth of the world and simply act in defiance of that fate. One of the best ways I can elaborate on why Kisuke's character is so special to me is to compare Bleach to Magi. What I'm about to describe is a Magian concept, but the principle applies in Bleach as well, and I'll be sure to make the connection so you can follow along, okay? So, follow me on this. In the world of Magi, there's a concept called the flow. The world King Solomon created has been designed to be built on the idea of destiny and progress, moving forward, if you will. And each person, in accordance with King Solomon's desire, has a sense of destiny that we're meant to ascribe to. It's not a matter of right and wrong, but it's a matter of subjectivity. We're not saying that Solomon's way is wholly right or wholly wrong. It is merely an attempt at answering the question of how to bring about peace and prosperity for everyone. And so, within this concept, should someone defy this idea of destiny that has been laid before them? Should they reject their fate and curse their current existence? They enter something Magi calls depravity. In other words, they are, quote, fallen. Bleach works in a similar way. The world of Bleach does not have a supreme all-knowing godhead. People with thoughts and opinions sought to create what they felt was good using the means available to them, and in doing so, they created a structure. The structure isn't meant to be good or bad. It's a subjective attempt by a specific group of people who wanted to achieve a particular goal in mind. And so, Bleach villains really are simply people who have strayed away from the established structure of good that has been given to them. The Bleach villains in Aizen, Yuha, and Tokinada specifically are simply rebelling against the established world, not because they're, quote, bad, but because they are dissatisfied with the answers that their progenitors came up with as the best way to live. In other words, they are, quote, fallen. Aizen Sosuke, he finds out the truth of the world and chooses to rebel against it. He wished to assume the role of the godhead, removing the linchpin that is the Soul King. Take Yuha, he finds out the truth of the world and chooses to destroy the established structure and create it anew, removing the old and creating the new. Tokinada, he finds out the truth of the world and chooses to live happily within it, simply discarding any sentiments about good. He would just utilize the system to his benefit and live on that way. As you can see with all of these characters, they find out the truth and then they are met with a question. What will you do with the truth that you've learned about how bad the world presumably is? For Kisuke, he doesn't want to assume the godhead of the known world and exist as its ruler. He doesn't want to destroy the known world and create a new one. And he doesn't want to simply take advantage of the world and use it for his selfish gains. At the same time though, Kisuke is fine letting the injustices continue, simply calling it, quote, that's the way the world works. Kisuke knows that the Soul King was brutally mutilated by the ancestors of the noble house, but does not believe anything should be done about it. Kisuke knows that Ichibe Hyosube is leading the Shinigami and the whole society based on a lie, but he doesn't believe anything should be done about it. Kisuke probably knows about the captains being sent to hell, but again, he doesn't believe anything should be done about it, because to him, that's the way the world works. And therein lies the moral paradox of Kisuke Urahara. Because he knows how bad things are, he understands it more than anyone. But at the same time, not only is he uninterested in fixing the broken system, he's accepting of the way that it currently is. Aizen accuses Kisuke to his face, telling him that his worldviews are the perspectives of a loser. Aizen is quoted as saying, "That's an argument only a loser would make. A real winner speaks of how the world should be, not how the world currently operates." I refuse to live in a world ruled by that thing. I am a victor. I shall decide how the world should be. Kisuke's answer to Aizen is no. The way the world is, flawed as it may be, is the best chance we have. And he refuses to want to change it where it matters. To have the power to enact change, but refusing to do so, that is Kisuke Urahara. A man so paradoxical that Yhwach had him as a war potential simply because of his unknown means. That is Kisuke Urahara. Let me put things a different way in closing, and I think this will best encapsulate my point. The way that I know that Kisuke is a fallen paradoxical character is that Kubo could come out with a chapter next week and suddenly reveal that Kisuke Urahara has been the real Bleach big bad all along, and not a single one of us would think it out of the realm of possibility. We would certainly be interested to know how exactly Kubo pulled it off, but not a single one of us would say, I don't buy it, I don't think Kisuke is actually a bad guy. That is how morally ambiguous Kisuke's presentation truly is, and it'll never, ever stop. He is, until the day he dies, Bleach's forever paradox.